Hey everyone, welcome to my spoiler-free review of Mission Impossible Part 2, The Final Reckoning, which wraps up Ethan Hunt's latest mission to stop a rogue AI known as the Entity from basically nuking the world. Part 1, Dead Reckoning, was such a good film. One of my favorite films of the year when it came out. So the question is, does Part 2 measure up? Let's break that down, and I want to give you fair warning that I've done a second review, and that's a spoiler review that focuses on the AI villain known as the Entity. I separated it out into two separate reviews so that if you haven't seen the film and you don't want to be spoiled, you could watch this. But if you have seen the film and you want to talk about the technology or some of the issues around that, you can go check that review out, and I'll drop the link in the notes, and I'll also link to it at the end here just in case you want to get into the AI part of the story, because you know I love technology. All right. So in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Ethan Hunt and his IMF team race to retrieve both halves of a mysterious key that is the only way to access and possibly control a rogue AI known as the Entity. As global powers and the Entity's human agents kind of close in, Ethan and his team kind of navigate the complex deceptions and shifting alliances and near impossible stunts to stay one step ahead. With intelligent storytelling, grounded but believable tech, and a villain who anticipates their every move in part one of this film, it really set the stage for a high stakes showdown in the final chapter. So, how'd that turn out? Part two, The Final Reckoning, picks up as the world teeters on the brink of collapse, with the Entity now destabilizing global trust by corrupting data, identities, and communication systems, not to mention taking over the nuclear arsenals of the world. So it's been about a year since the events of part one. And in that time, the Entity has supposedly grown more dangerous, at least on paper. And Ethan Hunt holds the key, literally, needed to access the sunken Russian submarine that contains the Entity's original source code. But he's in hiding until the American president finds him and convinces him to come listen and help. The team's goal is simple: to find the sub, get the source code, stop the Entity, and prevent global catastrophe. World powers clash and allies fracture, leaving Ethan to navigate this minefield of shifting loyalties, human enemies, and this AI threat. There is a lot that worked in this film, but not everything. So let's start with the obvious. The action, as always, is spectacular. There are jaw-dropping stunts, high-speed chases, death-defying heights, and impossible escapes that he escapes from. Everything we've come to expect from the franchise is in this film. The imagery, it's visually stunning and left me with shaky legs when I tried to walk out of the theater. And the pacing, it never lets up. So if you're here for adrenaline pumping action and imagery, you'll probably enjoy it. But if you're here for a film that knows how to end its story, well, that's kind of where things start to fall apart. The biggest problem with part two is its predictable 1980s straightforward plot of get the source code, defeat the AI. But it felt like they made an active choice to keep the film from being too sci-fi and shelved most of the AI related conflicts, replacing them with a string of exciting stunts held together by a threadbare narrative that really diminished the story. There's no deeper unraveling of the Entity, no clever twists in the logic, no real insight into its evolution. It doesn't learn, it doesn't adapt, it doesn't even feel present for most of the film. Instead, we get human villains and arguing humans who step in to fill the gaps left by the mostly absent AI. In part one, Gabriel was the Entity's human agent. He failed to get the key and is now paying the price for his failure. He's essentially become an obsessed caricature of himself. That's little more than a mustache-twirling villain bent on revenge. There were even some lost opportunities with Gabriel that really could have done something differently to provide a deeper level of deception about his relationship with the entity, to keep us and Ethan's team guessing. Instead, not only does the AI's presence in the film kind of fade away, but Gabriel becomes predictable. In addition to the ticking clock counting down to the moment when the entity takes control of the world's nuclear arsenals, and Gabriel's metaphorical mustache twirling, Ethan is also up against a bunch of Russians, which does actually make sense in the film, and a host of people from his own government who want to control the entity rather than destroy it. So he's forced to confront person after person after person, convincing them to help him. And there's a repetition to the process that enhances the predictability of the plot because we know the pattern. There are some human acolytes of the entity sprinkled around, but they never really present a credible threat, and the stakes never really seem real. Worse, we never really understand why the entity wants global annihilation, and understanding a villain's motivations is what creates narrative friction for the hero. So instead of a complex story with fantastic stunts, we get another run-of-the-mill killer AI that we've seen before. So I'm gonna avoid talking about the entity as a villain much more deeply because I don't want to do any spoilers here. And to get into that, I definitely would have to do a lot of spoilers. So watch my other video for that. I've put together a detailed video on the AI technology and its problems, or at least the problems that I saw, in a separate spoiler-filled review just for you. So be sure to check that out. However, I did want to give this film some props. There was a real effort to tie in story threads from earlier movies. We see callbacks to iconic moments like the knife that's dropped in the server room in the previous film, the rabbit's foot, the death of Ethan's wife. They even brought back a character from the past who has very real implications for the present, creating a full circle moment that landed emotionally for Ethan and for me as well as a viewer. It's clear they wanted to show how long this fight has been building, and that part really worked. It added a deeper layer to the action by reminding us that this isn't just another mission. This is the sum of everything Ethan Hunt has survived and lost. So, is Mission Impossible Part 2, The Final Reckoning, worth the price of the ticket? If you're going for nonstop action and some of the best stunts you'll see on the screen, this is absolutely it. The action is a thrill ride. However, if you're hoping for a thought-provoking, intelligent conclusion to the story from Part 1, just a payoff from what we saw in that first film, you'll probably walk out disappointed because Part 2 just isn't as good as Part 1. It just doesn't measure up. Doesn't mean you might not like it. It just doesn't measure up. So for me, The Final Reckoning just doesn't stick the landing. It overpromised and underdelivered, leaving Part 1 as the standout film within the franchise, and Part 2 just kind of offers some great action sequences, but not much else. The effect is a lopsided set of films that ends on a creative downbeat, which is unfortunate since this was one of the most anticipated films of the year. Still, it's worth the price of the ticket to finish off the experience in the theater because some of those stunts, you really do got to see them on the big screen. All right, that's enough from me. What did you guys think of Mission Impossible Part 2 Final Reckoning? Was the action enough to make you love it? Are you planning to go see it? What did you think of the story if you did? All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Please do give this review a thumbs up, subscribe, and hey, why not share with a friend who might be thinking about this film? And remember, if you'd like to check out my spoiler review for the AI villain known as the Entity, you can find that here as well. But just remember, at this point, the film isn't out yet, and so some of those spoilers might really spoil you. So just be aware of that. Next up is a special Ironheart trailer reaction that I'm putting together that will also include a discussion on Tony Stark as Iron Man. So watch out for that one because it should be a lot of fun. I am having so much fun putting it together. So stay tuned. And in the meantime, happy viewing, and I'll see y'all again soon. Bye for now.